south, down south.
Yeah.
And I've called all over creation looking.
Can't imagine having an arborvitae with this.
No, but everybody seems to have seen that thing on Facebook with the guy with the two knives
Yeah.
trimming the tree like in 2 seconds. That's an arborvitae. Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Joan Lee, and I'm the chairperson for the Planning and Zoning Commission. This meeting may be attended in person or by remote video or by telephone conference. Zoom conference access information was provided for the commission members, applicants, and other interested persons to participate and notice on the agenda posted on the town's website. For those of you who are attending, I will ask that you mute yourselves if you are able so that we cannot get any background noise. I have 2 very important reminders. First, every time you speak, you must state your name and title for the record. Second, you must be careful not to overspeak one another so that everyone who's listening can hear what is being said and we have a clear record of it. For this reason, when it comes time for the commission members to comment and ask questions about a particular agenda item before any action is taken, and then to vote on any agenda item, our planner, Maureen Juicy, will call the roll and take it. Also, the regular meeting is being recorded and the recordings will be posted on the town's website. I'm now going to ask Maureen to read the attendance by calling the roll. Thank you.
Okay, John Michael O'Brien, I understand is excused. George Millard,
Here.
Diane Joycey,
Here.
Timothy Zigmont requested to be excused.
Okay.
Brian Rogan,
Here.
Steve Woolman,
Here.
alternate Peter Zaragoza,
Here.
alternate Andrew Langnani,
Present.
alternate Steve Biella Jr. I do not see present, and Chairman Joan Bailey.
Here. Okay, so just to fill some empty seats, I'm going to ask that Andrew Langnani, receiver for Don Michael O'Brien, and Peter, would you mind filling in for Tim Zigmont tonight? Okay, I see you nodded, so yes, he's on board. All right, so let's begin.
Hello.
We have a review of the minutes for September 20th, 2021. It's a special meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? And do we have a motion? Steve biologist, right? Oh, Steve biologist, right. Okay, Steve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of September 20th with no corrections noted.
Okay, motion by Ms. Dorsey. Do we have a second? Okay, thank you. And further discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Okay. And Peter, how about you? Couldn't hear your vote.
Aye.
Commissioner Zaragoza, thank you. On to commission business. The first item is discussion of the Berlin High School special event, which is scheduled for October 23rd, 2021. Do you have anyone here from the high school or Maureen or you?
I believe we have high school representation.
John Schmaltz, Director of Security from Berlin Public School.
Let me try to turn up the volume. Give me 1 second. No.
Oh, let's watch the TV.
Oh, no.
TV land.
Oh, no.
Oh, is that Star Trek? No.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Man, that's
There we go.
the most
Got it.
exciting we've been in a long time. Those of you who missed it.
Okay. I'm gonna try it that way. Maybe
It's
the
all good. It's-
volume may be better now.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. I'm John Schmaltz, Director of Security, Safety, and Residency for Berlin Public Schools. And I'm here to speak about the homecoming dance, if there's any questions from the board.
Okay, terrific. I looked at it really quick. It's gonna be, when are you gonna be setting up the tent?
It's going to be just south of the tennis courts and the high school property. That's east of the track area. It's a fenced-in area that's all grass.
Okay. And you're proposing that the tent is gonna go up somewhere after the 16th or on the 16th of October?
Probably the 16th, the tent company, I guess there's some type of convention out in Vegas. And everybody's going to be out of town, so they're going to put it up on the 16th, which will allow buildings and fire marshal to do the inspections during the week. Hopefully make any corrections if need be and have it fully ready for the 23rd.
Okay, and you anticipate removing the tent on the 24th?
Pardon me?
You're going to be removing the tent on the 24th of October?
Correct. That's what I was advised by the tent company.
Okay, all right, terrific. The reason we had you come before us is because we do have several tent events that happen for churches and for the Lions Club. And it's just a way for the commission to sort of just do an overview to see what's being offered, and seeing that in high school, I think this is the first time you guys are doing a tent event instead of a dance inside.
Best of my knowledge, that's correct. And the reason the dance is outside is because of the COVID guidelines concerns. They prefer to do it outside.
Okay, and the music is all gonna, even though it is a dance, and I anticipate you guys are gonna have a dance floor, the noise or whatever, or the music's gonna stop at 9 o'clock.
Yes, the event's planned from 7 to 9, so we're gonna have music from 7 o'clock till 9 p.m.
Okay, and will the event linger and go beyond that time?
No, the principal is very, very adamant and strict and made it clear it's from 7 to 9. They try to extend it half hour early, and it's a hard no. So it's 7 to 9. You know, dispersal time at 9. Kids get in the cars, leave, and the staff do what they do to clean up along custodial and grounds if they're present at that time. From my understanding, grounds will come in the following day and do the actual cleanup, emptying trash cans, so forth.
Okay, and any lighting or whatever for you, I'm concerned about the neighborhood itself, because it's pretty close proximity to the neighbors, so.
Right. So I'm not 100% sure what time the tennis court lights normally go off during a normal activity day, but the tennis court's lights will be on till at least 9 o'clock, and there'll be tent lighting, and again, minimal, given that it's a dance, so there'll be no exterior lighting outside the tent, outside of the tennis courts and basketball courts, which is normal. And again, I'm not sure what time they normally turn off.
Okay, all right, thank you. Is there any other commissioners that have any questions regarding the application?
This is Commissioner Miller. I guess, are there going to be people that are going to be ensuring that students are staying in this vicinity and not, roaming all over the place as Commissioner?
Yeah, yes, the game plan is just approximately 17 school staff members signed up to work the event. Could be approximately 5 or 6 security officers from the school, and 1 or 2, depending on what the police department mandates for police services. So everybody will be contained to that area. The only time they'd be leaving the area during the event is to go to the rear of the high school for their restroom facilities. But they'll be escorted from the fence line to the restrooms, back to the dance area underneath the tent. So there'll be no roaming around, nobody on the track, nobody going to the tennis courts, basketball, so forth. It'll be a closed event.
Thank you.
Anyone else? So do we need sort of a nod of approval on the event?
Yeah, it would be an approval of the event, just like you do for the other types of events that you approve.
Is there anyone who has
Commissioner Dorsey, I'll make a motion to approve the proposal for homecoming to be held on October 23rd and allow for the erection of the tent on or about October 16th and removed after the event on October 24th, subject to staff comments.
Okay, great. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Miller. Further discussion? And all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, now on to the side application for CVN Rental LLC at 1011 Farmington Avenue. And Mr. Ed.
Good evening, Commissioners. Chris Hedge, 240 Kensington Road. Starting to kind of get us started. CBN Rental and one of its members, Chris Gorski, is here. He had been in front of this commission previously, the formal rental building, corner of Porter's Pass and Farmington Avenue. He had come to this commission with some of the design ideas. We did end up having some funds left in the sod program. Economic Development Commission approved CBN rental for just over $6,000 for new windows, doors, and stone on the first 4 to 6 feet of the property. So we're excited about it. Again, he's moving his real estate insurance firm to the building, and this is here with any particular questions. Good thing is too, is it's, as we all know, it's a major property, major location. It's been kind of a brown blob for a very long time. So we're very excited that we're able to use some of the resources to help Mr. Gorski with the project.
It'll be a pretty blob after that. Such nice little people.
No, it's not gonna be a blob. It's gonna have some nice definition. No more round windows.
Evening, Chris Gorski, 12 Ridge, Cromwell. One of the members, my wife and I were both members of the LLC. Here last night, we got the windows and stone, placed the orders this month, so things will get moving. Again, just trying to get this going. Obviously, we heard by delaying material, getting it. I mean, it seems like everything right now is weeks, not days. So sadly, it's dragging on much longer than we anticipated and wanted, but we're moving forward. Again, some of the doors are already. Windows coming in 2 weeks, and the stone should be sometimes next month. But planning to have everything done hopefully by mid to late November, and then continue with siding the other things in the beginning of the year when we get the material and finalize all the other stuff.
The siding itself, is that, I see the renditions that you have here, the renderings. but,
So I think since I was here last time,
Yeah.
we work on some ideas, and I have 2 sets of, I think will be finalized, just because it's well-known red building in the town. I think we want to keep that idea going. So this is, I can pass it over.
Yeah.
There are 2 sets of the same things, just to give you an idea of what we're looking. So it will be mixture of stone, regular siding, shaker. It's just to kind of dress it up, but we're still gonna keep some of that red building. We're still gonna keep some of the red, it's just trying to dress it. I mean,
It's interesting how you have the two colored siding.
right. We'll just take it out. We will dress it up. And, there's again a question that we're gonna do with red gutters, everything's gotta match. I mean, so it's just, as the things go on, I mean, I probably be back here about the garage. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so again, it's just even getting surveyor there, it's weeks and not months. So, I mean, as soon as I get that plot plan, square away, I will be back. What we could be done and how we can get this.
Is the economic development also with this, or this is great?
Yes.
You have the sideline.
I definitely appreciate it. Yeah, will help you out. No, trust me.
Any questions from the commission?
I just pull it permit. So I mean, it's pending to just to be sure that we all on the same page. Right? We did do the permit. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve this application for 2011 funds that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Woolman. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Legnani seconds.
Any further discussion? No one's in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Here, you're online. Here.
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right.
Chairman, can I just remind,
Yes.
so that we don't have to do the roll call, that you just make sure you ask and if anyone's opposed, so that then we can
Oh, okay.
know that I don't have to call the roll.
Oh, all right, terrific. I'm sorry.
Thank you. No, that's
Is there
fine.
anyone opposed? All right, on to the third item. It's discussion of administrative somewhere over the spectrum at 120 Webster Square Road.
Hi there.
Oh,
Can everyone hear us okay?
hi, how are you?
We're doing well. My name is Alyssa Gregg. This is Courtney Welch. We're the owners of Somewhere Over the Spectrum. Thank you for having us here tonight.
Okay, well, thank you for coming in with your idea. So let's hear a little bit about it, if you don't mind.
Perfect. So Somewhere Over the Spectrum, we're a pediatric therapy center. So we provide therapeutic services to children on the autism spectrum. We have a couple different programs, some being our early childhood autism program, where children would kind of receive medically necessary services under our care with ABA therapists kind of in a one-to-one ratio throughout their whole day. So we're kind of proposing to you guys for a 24 by 48 fence kind of adjacent to our building that we have right there. And that outdoor fence area would essentially be an outdoor treatment space for our kids. Our kids are very sensory seeking. They love playing in mud kitchens. They love climbing on different rocks and climbing on different structures to get tons of different types of input. So essentially having a nice outdoor space where it's closed in. Every child has, as we said, a one-to-one ratio, but a nice outdoor area.
Now, is this considered a school, or is this, does a parent come with their child and they're there for like a half a day, or is it something where they would leave the child with your care? Or?
The parents typically leave the children in our care. And, you know, sometimes parents will come in for observations or parent training on a weekly basis. They may spend a couple hours a week with us. But ultimately, it's not a school, it's a therapy practice, but for more intensive therapy for kids that really require that level of intervention at a young age.
Yeah.
If I may,
Yes.
when they explored moving into the building, and I want to make a correction on my staff report, I had said that Pro Natural Health was also in the building. They'd replaced Pro Natural Health, but we saw it as a like for like because it's therapeutic for health reasons, not a daycare or a school type setting.
Correct. We bill through insurance for a majority. I would say 95% of our services are billed through insurance.
We're very holistic in our approach and everything.
Commissioners, we have any questions? Just whether or not staff comes, or our staff comes to care of everything.
No, I have no further comments. Fencing is allowed right up to property lines. The fencing is consistent, the proposed fence is consistent with the other enclosures on the site. That's the way they've written it, presented it, that it will match what was approved by the commission for the dumpster areas and the fencing that's otherwise on the site.
I just have one question for you, and that is whether or not this might set a precedent for other leases on the same property. That might trigger what the request for some.
I guess that would be an unknown. And I would tell them that they would have to come to the commission for site plan approval regardless. As I said, fencing is allowed to enclose commercial properties if it's applied through the planning and zoning commission as a site plan amendment and the board approves it or not. So they're not precluded.
What's being proposed now, though, is not eliminated for setback requirements or anything.
No, it's in the rear, it's the rear of this building. However, it's a side yard. I think I have.
Correct. It's on the side of the building, and we do have consent from our landlord, Earl Wickland, and Sandy, to use that area for this pending your approval.
Thought I But, oh, I guess it's on the front page of the application. I can pull up the GIS if you'd like, but if you are facing the plaza from Webster Square Road, it's the first building on the right. So this fence will be behind that building or to the southeast of that building where the Torello Tire, no, that's not the name of it, but it's a tire place, and Connecticut Tire. And I think the martial arts place is in the building
That's correct.
adjacent, and that's parking. And, otherwise not. They won't, well, they wouldn't encroach on that yard anyway. I can bring up the area. And that was actually the question, as to put it as a commission business in discussion, was whether or not you wanted to approach it and vote on it as a site plan amendment, or if it would be an administrative approval. Thank you for clarifying. When I wrote it, I remember that was the point.
Once the wall is finished, say that they go on.
You could put a condition on it that it be removed and it goes with this use. Or it would go with the property as a fence, any other fence would on a commercial or industrial property. So if we're on, oh, I'm not sharing my screen yet. Wait a minute, let me share it with everyone else. This, my cursor is now on the building that they occupy. So if you're coming up Webster Square Road, across the street over here is the plaza. This is this building, and the fencing area is behind what appears to be solar panels or something on the roof behind that.
Ask you, enclosed within the fencing, is there any playscapes, or I know that you have it soon for of children. So are there playscapes or anything else involved in that, or is it just basically?
If I believe the question was if there's playscapes in there, correct?
Yes. Yeah, if you wanted to repeat your question.
Yeah, in other words, I'm not sure what's going to be contained within the fencing for your needs.
Yep. I think within that fencing area, we're planning on, I think, kind of in one area having a picnic table, some kind of seating for our clients and therapists. Probably in one side having it be more sensory based, so some kind of lower lumber built, almost like bucket and basins where they can have a pretend mud kitchen, water play, and then kind of there's this company called Community Playthings, and they have very natural, beautiful looking outdoor equipment. That's kind of all very natural and wood. So I'd say none of it's like that bright playscape like structures, and
And there's
especially
no swings, not big slides or any, it's not traditional playground equipment per se.
we kind of want it to be more of a nature's playground. So
Yeah.
there might be some logs where they can step from log to log, or a big log they can climb through, and some stairs they can step up and go down, but not your traditional playscape.
Alright, so I'll make a motion to approve as a site plan amendment. For that use, we should be showing that we have to come back for this board for review. And once it's done.
Terrific. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Measure in seconds.
Thank you, sir. Is there further discussion? And all those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Peter? Peter?
No, I'm not opposed.
Okay, perfect, thank you. I just want to make sure. All right, thanks a lot. All right, so there you have it. So you have the commission's blessing, and we wish you well and good luck with your project. It's a really good cause. Thank you, ladies, for taking me on.
Thank you very much for having us. We're very grateful to be in your community. Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
You too.
Okay, next up is discussion request of Jay Farrello, architect and planner regarding 14.7 Berlin Turnpike, also in the Barber for MC Barber, excuse me, for 13. Yeah, 0.3 application. Okay. Hi.
Good evening,
Good evening. How are you?
Madam Chairman and Commissioners. My name is John Cirillo. I'm an architect and planner. As you can probably tell, I've been around for a long time. I started in 1962, I believe, as a professional architect and planner. So I've had quite a bit of experience with this, so I understand, you know, your procedures pretty well. And I just wanted to say that the young men who are involved with MC Barber are very, very talented people, and very kind of aggressive in wanting to do what they want to do, and innocently got involved in a situation that didn't have professional help to present. My involvement only came when the Mr. Edge and the building official came to the site and were looking for details for the structural repair of the part of the building that remained after the rear section was demolished after a fire. And so I had no idea what approvals they had before that. And unfortunately, with the COVID protocols and all, it was very difficult dealing with anybody. And all I did basically was start off doing structural repair work for the building department to make sure that whatever was being done on the front building was going to be structurally sound. Unfortunately, your procedures are such that the special permit and the site plan, I've been told, were dealt with at the same time. And as we all know, there are two parts to most zoning. That which has to do with the use of the property, and the other which has to do with the bulk and yard and whatever of the buildings, basically. What happened here was apparently, and I'm not sure because I wasn't involved, the plan that was submitted for the text amendment to allow the Barber Academy only included the outline of the existing building that remained, not the rear section that was that the foundation was still there, but the rest of the building had been demolished. The interesting part of that is that the front part of the building isn't allowed use. It's a barber shop with an accessory room for some construction. I'll get into a little bit more of that later, but the rear section, which is the larger part of it, was intended to be built, but since there was a time consideration, they wanted to move in and start occupying the building for the barber shop. So ironically, the approval that you gave was for a use that is not being used right now until we build that part of the building. So their intention basically was to do the whole thing, but to do it in phases. And because of a lack of proper communication at the time, the first phase was completed, a C of O was issued, and a storage container that the owners had bought rather than rented because they knew it was going to be there for a specific amount of time. And they were buying materials as they were able to get bargains, basically, and store them inside rather than outside. A lot of finished materials, a lot of equipment, things like that. And they used it as a construction trailer. Now, you may not know this, but right now, these so-called shipping containers are now being used pretty widely as storage containers. And I understand there was a problem with that. I think the action taken by the zoning enforcement officer was based on the fact that there was an illegal sign on it. That said MC Barber, basically. And I agreed that I told them that basically when they called me, that was true, that was an illegal sign that had to be eliminated. The question is, that particular structure was supposed to be removed after a CLO. If I was involved, I would have advised them to get a temporary CFO for part of the building because they're going into the next phase now. I've been hired to design the back section on the existing foundation. So the only thing that we disagree with is the fact that the section used to justify the cease and desist order is based on something that's a hazard to the public. You know? It has more to do with the storage of unused motor vehicles and things like that and junk. In effect, this building, if you want to call it, this structure, does just the opposite. It protects all of that. It's out of sight and is kind of ubiquitous. People, there are buildings all over the place that do this. So what we're asking, we'll be going before the Board of Zoning Appeals to appeal the zoning enforcement officer's decision based on the section that was used to do that. In the meantime, we have taken out a permit to do the investigatory work for the existing foundation, find out how much repair it needs, how much demolition it needs, and the like, while we finish developing the plans for the superstructure. So that they don't have to move the thing and then move it back again in a very short period of time. In other words, what we're saying is construction is ongoing by their intent, but unfortunately it was not presented properly so that the C of O for the first section has been considered a cause to take the structure off the site. So we want to just let the commission know that we're fully aware of what your concerns are and we'll comply with all of the regulations going forward. But we had to appeal the zoning enforcement officer's decision. We don't want to make this a confrontational thing. We just like to make sure that we're all on the same page and can resolve the issue in a way that's satisfactory to all. I will say, since they own the structure, based on further discussions we have with staff and you, it might be in the future, it might be part of a site plan modification to a site plan application to retain it in a better location where it's out of sight around the back of the building for a permanent accessory building for storage. And whatever appropriate requirements you may have to screen or do whatever has to be done would be acceptable, obviously. The sign has been painted over at this point. I realized that was probably the thing that triggered the response. Right now, it is set back quite a bit from the street. And the sign really is the thing that probably, I can't say who found it objectionable, but it was probably obvious that you could see it. If that sign wasn't there, it probably would never even be seen, basically. It was set quite a bit back and it's screened from the adjoining residential property on the other side of the road, the condo project, with a stand of trees that's very opaque, and along the north side as well. So that hasn't been decided yet, but we just want to know how we go about the next phase of this. Since we're building on the existing foundation and repairing the building, normally a new site plan would not be required. The interesting part of that is that the front section of the building is not conforming in terms of the setbacks. And that's been approved already. The rear section is entirely consistent with the zoning regulations. So all I'm saying is, we'd be happy to come back for a site plan so you can see what's happening and understand that they want to do the best possible job that they can. And you can see by virtue of what they've done so far, that's the case. And there was a time during the construction, there was a lot of material on the site, on the outside. They cleaned it all up. They're operating now. They would have to, with the Barber Academy, have to do some calculations. That's the amount of parking and things like that. I will say that I do have some knowledge about this. My daughter has been a business, or excuse me, a business consultant for salons. She worked for Sebastian International, Wella, all over the world, doing this kind of consultation. The question of how this fits into an educational facility is kind of an open one. It's done, it's kind of a hybrid, so to speak. It's a vocational type of thing that's linked to a commercial operation for the most part. And I'm happy that you approve the text change to allow what was not shown in the existing regulations. So that's fine, but it didn't do anything to justify the front part of the building, because the front part of the building is a commercial use. It was allowed, personal services, barbershop. So that's where we're going. We want to let you know where we're going forward with. And we'd like to resolve the issue of the storage container as doing exactly what it is, storage container. And use it as also as the base of operations for the contractor who are the two brothers here. Admir is here right now, and Mirhan, who is MC. They were their own general contractors at the time, and went ahead with, in spite of all of the problems, to get that first phase done. But now, with the benefit of your involvement, and we have to thank Mr. Edge for his help throughout. There had been obviously a miscommunication on how this procedure should have gone. So I hope that you understand that, and we will still have to go before the Board of Zoning Appeals for that appeal. So you know that we're not trying to confront the town at this point. We're just doing what has to be done to save an unusual situation because of a lack of communication.
Well, we appreciate that. Maureen, when you pose at this point, or when you see there is a way to resolve this?
Well, I think we respectfully disagree with their some of their presentation and a few fundamentals. For instance, that the Planning and Zoning Commission does give site plan approval, even in the instance of rebuilding something that has not been in existence, a structure that has not been there for several years, whether or not there is a foundation there. So site plan approval will be required for a future addition to this building. The change of use required by the way that our regulations are administered. The change of use from it had been a restaurant or club type use. The change of use also prompted coming to the Planning and Zoning Commission for that site plan change and the changes to the property that were going to be happening in relation to that. So, this is what, and your regulations call for site plans and special permits to walk hand in hand. So it's all part of what is the normal course of action, and it was not an unusual process by which they followed to get approval to move in there. And again, with their special permit use because of the school portion. my recollection is that during that approval process, the commission did recognize that there was a container on the site, regardless of whether it had signage painted on it or not, and that your indication to staff was that they had storage in it that had to be in it until they moved it into the building, which they couldn't move it into the building until they had a certificate in which they were allowed to move materials into the building and equipment and furniture, et cetera. And then it was supposed to be removed. Staff has been working with the owners, with the barbers, the Herians, I'm sorry, to bring that into compliance. Adam spoke with them I spoke with them on several occasions. Adam then spoke with them on several occasions. And the fruition of that is Carol having sent a cease and desist order. So the storage container is not allowed by right on any properties. Those are something that if someone wanted to make it a permanent accessory structure, requires site plan approval or zoning approval at the very least, but it's a commercial location, so that would require site plan approval. They have appealed the cease and desist to the zoning board of appeals, and that is pending for the end of the month. And it does stay the order until that decision is made, just so everyone knows why it hasn't gone anywhere in the meantime. I want to just note that no applications have been made for additions to the building. So this is, as far as we're concerned, as far as staff is concerned, the application that came before you was completed. They weren't proposing any other site work that was to be done. They weren't do any other site work. And therefore that's closed. So this is no longer a construction trailer, even though it really doesn't fit our strict definition of a construction trailer either. It doesn't fit that. It's not. So these are many of the reasons for the cease and desist. Again, that's an appeal before the ZBA, not before you, but whether or not the storage container, or rather, I guess, I guess I'm understanding, and they can clarify, is kind of they're looking for kind of a blessing to keep it there because they're going to be further applying, but we don't have a pending application. If there, if that was the case and it was an open construction site, there may be room for interpretation on your part. I'm
Commissioner Miller. So I probably drive by there just about every day. I brought this to more attention several times. My take on it, I think everything was very cordial. We were really glad to see MC Barber come in and use that building. So we had a very good meeting, very accommodating in that regard. There's nothing said about this. As Maureen said, this was temporary storage until they moved in, whatever. My personal take on the thing is it's an eyesore. It looked like graffiti. Like some kids had gotten in there, and I know it said MC Barber on it, but the way it was written and the way it looked like, some kids had gotten in there with spray paint that didn't belong in what we're trying to do in the town of Berlin.
Understandable.
I also disagree with your premise that it's very well set back, whatever it stands out like a sore thumb in my regard.
Yes.
It certainly did when it was graffiti-like, whatever.
Yes.
I'll make the argument today. I went by it. I made a comment coming in the morning, not knowing that you were coming in here to say this, saying, yeah, I see they painted it green and did a crappy paint job on it. So, somebody took a gallon of paint, whatever, it's not a good paint job, whatever, it still stands out like a sore thumb. And I would argue that to some degree, they're still trying to use it somewhat as a sign because it's a barber pole. So what's that? If it's not a sign, why did you paint a fresh new barber pole? So I think
Remember
we're kind
the
of
barber pole, it was on there, and I told my brother, I said, if you were gonna paint over it, you should have at least painted the barber pole too.
So to me, it's still a sign. I also don't think the paint job very well. That's what we that's all aside, it's still a warning, these points are still very valid, so I think we were quite clear at the meeting, and we had agreement. Was it your brother who?
Yeah, I was.
So, I mean, he was more in agreement, he didn't have any issues with anything. Agreed to it, said no problem, we'll take care of it, and then months and months and months go by, we have to get enforcement officers to take action, whatever, on something that should have been just done in the first place, so.
My only comment, sir, is the fact that notwithstanding all of the help we got from economic development and the building department, it should have been presented as a phased project, basically, because the entire building was intended to be reconstructed and used as the Barber Academy, not just the front section. And that was just a matter of communications problem. If they had the professional help to provide the application, this wouldn't have happened. It's unfortunate.
Well, that's fine, but as Maureen says, there is no pending application.
Yeah,
I'll
well-
tell you, as sitting on this board, when we make considerations for people, whatever. Aggravates me to no end when people just ignore it. I don't believe anybody came back and tried to say, hey, you know, I know you're doing it now, but a fair amount of time has gone by that this thing has been there and just sitting here in violation of what we asked you to do.
I just want to say, I spoke to Carol like last week, and it was, so my brother, it's his first time owning a property like this with a business on it, so he kind of just thought he can do certain things just because it's your own property. And that's when me and him kind of like, you know, I told him, you know, you have to go through certain people to do certain things. So, you know, when he brought that shipping container in and he put the sign on it, you know, it was nothing just like, you know, I'm going to do what I want. He didn't even know that he needed that approval, you know. And
The approval aside, that's fine. That's all well before.
just want to say he didn't do it on
No,
purpose.
but that would, he brought the container in prior to getting approval for the opening of it, whatever, and as part of that condition, we would then say, you know, what is this for, blah, 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 and then we would put in, okay, you're gonna get rid of it. And he agreed to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can't agree to
Yeah, I
something
can't argue
and
that.
just choose to ignore it, saying, well,
I
you
agree.
know, if you gotta go to New Hampshire for your diet and stuff like that.
All I'm saying, sir, all I'm saying, sir, is the way it was presented to the
I
commission
understand.
could have been done a little bit better and would have avoided all of this, that's all. And again, we appreciate the work that the Economic Development Coordinator did under the circumstances. I mean, we all had problems with the COVID situation. My wife died during that period, and I was doing a lot of home care for her, almost 100% of the time. So part of the responsibility is mine. I could have probably delved deeper into it, but I was only concerned with the structural requirements of the building department at that time. And unfortunately, they didn't have the professional help, either by me or by anybody else, to present this from their perspective. And we're not blaming anybody. It's just a matter of, you know, communication. How can we solve it? I'm happy to come before you. I have taken out a permit, a building permit, to do the exploratory work on the existing foundation to make sure it's structurally sound and whatever repairs have to be made. So that is there. Now, does that mean that you want an application now for that part of it as well?
Well,
It has to do with the building and not the use.
these are very valid points that we should know. And I'm trying to see myself to, and way to resolve this. You have a zoning officer's action before you, you have no
Right.
authority over. And that means to the zoning board of appeals to have to address that. So we're not gonna go anywhere.
No, we don't want you for this.
What you probably
Right.
want to do is, in order to bring this all about in the right direction, I think we need to take steps to get the site plan amendment or a proposal drawn up and submitted to the planning department so they can review it. And basically, we're going to have to look at the whole project and see how this addition or this rebuilding of that last front out section is going to work for you. Right now, again, we're waiting for ZBA to
determine what's gonna happen with that. Private container.
Well, we're going forward with the plans right now for the rear section.
So if I may ask, so if I understood you correctly, irrespective of all those plans, whatever, there still should have been something done to put that trailer on the property.
Yes.
Right. So to get that done, you still have to put an application in for what would need to be done?
A
to
site,
make that legal.
a site plan amendment showing that the storage container as a structure on the property with the appropriate setbacks shown on a plan. And then that would come before this commission for approval in the location that they propose for it to be.
We have a wherewithal or the authority, well, okay, you get past this time on this article. I mean, that's a lot, that, we don't have that jurisdiction to do that, correct?
Right.
Commissioner Miller, that goes before a totally different commission entirely. So,
Yeah.
and until they bring the second plan amendment to us in order to vote it on, there's not a thing we can do.
No, we're not asking We're here to get your input basically and understand how to go forward.
Will that work with your department? Oh, I'm sorry, Diane. Well, I agree that we're with the enforcement action to be taken care of, whatever steps we take to show good faith in financial compliance prior to going to the CBA can only be in the so whatever you can do, I think, to come into compliance or show an effort to come into compliance. Submitting the applications that are needed. As much as can be done before you go, before CBO.
Be happy to do that. I think I've advised them that if it were to be moved to the northeast corner, that is well buffered by the building itself, the existing building, behind that, and it's buffered on the north and on the east side by a heavy tree cover, it would not be visible from Berlin Turnpike. You'd have to come into the site, go around the back of the building, see it. Now, the only reason why we're doing this is that there's no place for them to take this thing off the site at this point. So if you're asking for compliance, we can do that, move it to that section. So it won't be seen properly painted, like Commissioner Miller's comments, and basically do whatever screening is necessary for that.
I just want to say, for me, like, I didn't want this to be a big deal because our goal when we came here, and like I was telling Chris, our goal is to have an academy as well as a barber shop. We want to create jobs, we want to create careers for students. So that's like our big goal. So to me, like, it's a little embarrassing to be here talking about this because this is not like what we want to do, you know, but we would like to keep it, you know, if we can, whatever we have to do, you know, but just to let you guys know, you know, this is not something that we came to Berlin to fight over. You know, we want to do more bigger things.
That was not the intent, that was not the intention of the motion to move that.
Of course.
That's
No,
reality.
no, I'm not saying that. I'm
We're
not saying
trying to
that.
figure out what's the best way to move the whole project
Yeah.
forward. That's where we're more about the.
Well, then I will outline the steps that we've taken. We've done the appeal, that they to stay basically, so we can, you know, at least work out a solution. That's the first thing. To try to come to an agreement as to how we can handle this thing temporarily and permanently. Okay, and we're getting your input. That's good. The second part was to take out a permit. So technically there is a permit out. So the continuation of its use as a storage container for building materials and the operations that we're going to be going through to inspect and do whatever demolition is necessary on the existing foundation and repairs on that existing foundation. So that's a permit. Now I realize that might be a stretch for some people, But the fact that I'm under contract for the design of it, and I'm working as fast as I can to get the plans completed at this point. But it was always their intent to do the entire building. As I said, I didn't say it, but basically, when they bought the building, when they bought the site, I should say, they intended to reconstruct the entire building, regardless of the use. So what happened is that when they came for the text amendment, you only considered that use, and the plan that was submitted was a survey that had whited out that part of the building. And say,
Well,
that's the problem.
That's why we need a new site.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do it immediately. We'll get that in right away.
It's in the right direction.
If we were to get in an application for the site plan improvements, and future improvements, then that would also show that it's the building permit application. If a site plan is required, really doesn't affect a violation in that regard. The appeal does, and the application to this board and to the department. I would like to add, just for the record, that while they've mentioned on numerous times that economic development and the building department worked with them, the zoning staff worked very hard with them to allow this to stay and yep, we're gonna get rid of it, and then it's still there, and then it's still there. We have this in it, and show me or Adam and explain. So I just want to say that our staff, as well as with you, under your direction as well, has, and the board allowing them to leave it until they actually moved into had permission to move the materials into the building, was also, I believe, very accommodating. And
I have
I want that on the record. Because this has been going on, as I said, from Adam and well before, since they got that sign off, and I think that was approximately a year ago.
Any other commissioners have any questions?
I have a question. I just want to clarify. So one of the immediate issues at hand is that the storage container, in lieu of this entire process, the storage container could potentially be removed, but the problem is that the owners of the property do not have a place to store this storage container off-site before they can begin construction, so to speak. Is my understanding correct?
Yes.
Okay. And there's a site on the northeast side of the building that will keep it more adequately screened and out of sight from most most view.
Yes.
Okay. In that case, I think at the very least the storage container needs to be moved to that site out of view at the very least.
Okay, that would be, because it's pending action with the zoning board, that would have to be settled outside of it. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Zaragoza, and it seems like an easy resolve, but it gets a little bit thicker into the weeds as you peel back the onion. And if we're looking for basically, I mean, what you propose is sort of like a temporary resolution. However, it doesn't stop the action by ZBA for the cease and desist or whatever they put on for non-compliance. So that's why we need site.
Right.
That's fine.
Very good. That's the major reason why I'm here. Find out what you require. That to make this go forward. Thank you.
Anyone else have any?
In that regard, I have a question to the commission. Assuming they're going to be coming in with a application for it to be an accessory structure on the site, a suggestion that perhaps if they found a location on the site that they believe that would be approvable, that meets the setbacks, and that they think would be where the commission may ultimately approve it to be because it's shown on that site plan and fitting that perhaps they move it to that location, although that is an expense to move it and potentially have to move it again or what have you as well. But at least it's meets the zoning and is where they might propose it, and maybe less offensive in the meantime, or unsightly in the meantime. Mhm.
Oh, definitely.
It would need a site plan amendment, yes, but maybe put it to the location that meets the criteria and that they're proposing it go with that site plan amendment. So no, what ZBA does is determine whether or not the order was correct, not look for a resolution to the order, but instead look to say, did we correctly write the order? Was it a correct action? And was it warranted in the regulations that this is an unsightly material?
I think, you know, from my perspective, I wanted to work with you, but at the same time, we're not gonna override another commission or even attempt to, so.
I'm not going to do something else. No.
Thank you very much.
No, yeah. All right, so commission, do you need a vote on this?
And he just wrote a letter and asked to be heard during the meeting, so I rescheduled him as a discussion.
I was about to say, I know you. You don't even have a site amendment or anything like that. All right, moving on then. All right, so have a good evening and we'll talk to you soon. All right, so item is going to be discussing our action on proposed vegetative buffer restoration plan compared to the property of Thomas Holdings LLC at 30 36 and 86 Commerce Street, Rollins.
I believe that Attorney Capola is going to, how are we going to proceed?
Thomas.
No, oh, sorry, I'll stop sharing and make my screen go back to normal. I'm sorry. There we go.
So some of you will recall that there has been discussion about, over quite a long period of time, restoration of a vegetative buffer at the properties at 30 to 36 and 86 Commerce Street. This has traveled a long path. There was an attempt to get a new tenant for a portion of the property, and that ultimately that application was denied. There was anticipated that a business that is an in-town business was potentially going to move to the property. So the commission did entertain text amendments with regard to storage. You'll recall that. I know that's even going back some months now too. And ultimately that new business decided not to relocate to the property. So then it was, well, you know, here we are now after so much time passed, we're going to attempt to reestablish the buffer with a restoration plan. The plan has gone through various drafts, in part because there was a change in the design professional that they were using. At this point, we think it's ready for your review and your sign off. There is pending litigation on this. It is pending with the ZBA. There was enforcement action taken by Mrs. Juicy. You know, with your sign off on the plan, I drafted a very simple stipulated judgment in the case to then resolve the litigation. So my plan is, if you act in a positive way this evening, to then go on to their regular meeting this month and hold the necessary. That has to be public comment received on that stipulation, so that will be appropriately noticed. before we could proceed to court to fully settle the matter. So there's not a lot to say. I think that staff may want to just comment with her perspective on the restoration plan.
So we did go back and forth several times with this plan in order, on one of well, several of the items. One of them is varying the plants so that they don't, one plant gets a bug, the one next to it is not susceptible to the same one, some varieties. I did get some guidance from one of the commission members that was extremely enlightening because I'm not the plant guy. We also having them change the notes on the plan that they're not to remove understory and other plants that are already growing, the brush, the junk, it doesn't matter. It was all junk that was there, or much of it was junk to start with that they cleared, but it created a buffer. Whether that be, exciting, an exciting forest or just habitat and buffering for the neighbors. So they did update the plan for that. There's been some discussion about the correct time period in which to plant. However, with it needing to go to ZBA for their vote on it for the stipulation, I think we may end up with the planting may have to be moved to the spring regardless, despite the fact that we've been working on this plan since this, long before the spring. But, and I think that about covers it. It seems to be varied as well as layered and several across the width of the frontage of the building. Between the building and the street, there's several layers of plantings that they proposed to enhance what was there or what was removed. I think this plan meets the direction we've received.
Go right ahead, that's right.
Just one quick comment. The length of time that the plants are, if there's an opportunity to replace plants that fail, is that a 1-year period?
Yes, that's statutorily a year.
Okay.
Right.
Can we extend that as part of this approval? To like a 2-year?
I think it's in regs, is it not at 1 year?
I think our regs may actually say 18 months, but bonding, we've adjusted some of the bonding, and I'm not sure exactly where this fits, but. I don't know. Well, if I'm gonna-
Right.
To follow your regulations.
And then just one other thing. It's customary to use tables to enter issues so that they don't slump over until they get established. Those tables need to come off at some point. Drives me crazy when I see properties where tables are left forever and ever on trees and storms. One place that the trees are getting annihilated because of the so at some point.
So as you know from the report that you have, that or staff comments that you received from Mrs. Juicy, her first comment, I think that would address what your concern is. There does need to be installation notes added. I think that does fall under that, so we will keep that in mind to communicate it to council so that they can communicate it to the landscape architect as well. Add that. So just in terms of your motion, please make sure again that you're indicating that the staff comments be incorporated. And there's again, a plant list quote has to be updated to reflect the corrected plant sizes and the installation notes. Again, we'll be sure to include a comment about cabling and then bonding as required. And as far as the maintenance, the third condition would obviously be that the maintenance required.
Everybody's done.
No, that's okay.
The vegetative buffer restoration plan, subject to installation notes and maintenance notes added along with bonding.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second by Commissioner Rovell.
Thank you. Discussion. And all those in favor? Aye. Those
Aye.
opposed? Okay. All right, good. Done. On to the-
Thank you.
Thank you. On to public hearing. So I'll ask Brian to talk to the public hearing.
Alan Berlin, legal notice public hearing of the Berlin Planning and Zoning Commission, the town of Berlin, Connecticut, Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing in regular meeting. Interested parties may join the meeting and participate in the public hearing in person or remotely by video or telephone as provided. The following public hearing will be held at which time an opportunity will be given relative to the following applications. A. 12.2B of the Berlin zoning regulations concerning greenhouses, attorney Brad and Shine. The application and the meeting materials are available at the planning and zoning department, Berlin Town Hall, 240 Champion Road, Berlin, Connecticut. Secretary for the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, so that's the item. Okay, and you are Attorney Brad Borchardt?
I am, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. So, welcome, and what do we got?
Well, thank you for having me, and I do want to mention that the help that we gotten from Mr. Williams for phenomenal in this process so far. We did receive staff comments very recently, and because of that, we request an extension or a continuance of this hearing so that we can review those staff comments, and that we may also have additional issues that we need to resolve as well from those staff comments. So that's our ask.
Commissioner Lenny, I'm just gonna say, thank you for being upfront and honest with this commission. I hope things go well with having a good safety. Okay.
Right. The motions, or should we open the public hearing now, technically?
Yeah, so I was imagining that there might be some introduction or something in order to open it, but it's fine that it's open and then just gets continued. I did discuss with Attorney Monshine that if it's open, we have 35 days to close it, which continue it easily to the next meeting. But if further modifications are made or there's discussion after that presentation and those further modifications, then they were indicated that extensions would not be an issue. So we'll discuss that at that time, of course.
I'm happy to answer any questions you might have now about the application. If you have any, but obviously probably be better off to wait for the actual
hearing. 21st.
I'll make the motion to do this until the 21st of October.
Right, thank you for the discussion. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Any those opposed? Hearing none, all right, we'll continue.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. And then under old business, we just continue. Okay. So next,
Can I, who seconded?
seconded was,
Steve. What I thought.
thank you. Night. All right, good night. Okay, so. Yes, we do.
Motion that we're still on. Another wagon or,
I don't know. That's what I was.
So I'll send him a phone number if that's okay with him.
Peter? Peter, are you there?
Can I send you a phone number to log into the executive
Yeah.
session? Okay.
Yep.
The other option, if you would like him to be on Zoom, I can right now schedule a Zoom through my friend account. And he can connect that way,
Yeah.
whatever your preference. is.
Whatever's easier. The phone number is probably easier.
Right. We can now take a motion.
A motion to
Move into executive session.
Invite staff.
Invite staff,
And excuse Mr. Warren.
Excuse me.
Mr. Woman.
Yes.
Thanks,
Everyone, thank you.
Invited is, I believe, the town attorney and staff.
All right, excuse.
And excuse me.
And, right, so that's it. Now, do you have to shut down your room?
Yeah, don't we need a second?
Oh,
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
More coffee. I need more coffee. Okay.
Easy job.
So we have a second, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? No one. All right, so we're moving to executive session. And it's